Hey guys, who's excited to learn about all those pesky British taxes in the colonies before the Revolution? Yay! So excited. Okay, let's review for a moment. Um, France and Britain fought a war against each other called the French and Indian War, and it was fought in the 13 British colonies. The war began actually because of a colonist, and then Britain sent soldiers to protect the colonists from the French. And Britain won, but they were in a lot of debt after a war because wars are very expensive. So to raise money from that debt for the debt, Parliament and the King passed taxes in England, and people in England said, "Yeah, we'll pay the tax, fine, but if the war was fought in the colonies to protect the colonies, shouldn't like they also pay?" And Parliament said, "Yeah, that was a good idea." So Parliament and the King passed some taxes in the 13 colonies. Parliament is an elected assembly in England. It represents everybody in England, but it did not represent the colonists. Okay, in 1764, the King and Parliament passed the Sugar Act. The Sugar Act was a tax on sugar and molasses, which is like a syrupy sugar. Colonists are furious. They yell, "No taxation without representation. You can't tax us if we're not represented in Parliament." And they begin to smuggle, which is like sneak, illegally sell. And the King and Parliament are very upset by the smuggling and the protesting. So they don't punish anyone. They repeal or cancel the tax. And colonists rejoice. Then the next year, in 1765, the King and the Parliament passed the Stamp Act. The Stamp Act requires a stamp, like an ink pounding stamp, not one you can mail, on all documents. It's a tax because it's extra money. All documents, newspapers, playing cards, marriage licenses, diplomas, land licenses. And again, the colonists yell, "No taxation without representation." And they are so angry that they actually unite. They get together and send elected officials, delegates, to an assembly called the Stamp Act Congress. And this is the first time that the colonies are uniting together. And the purpose of the Stamp Act Congress was to get the Stamp Act repealed. And the Stamp Act Congress decides we're going to boycott all British goods. The colonies will refuse to buy British goods until the Stamp Act is repealed. And this is good or like effective for two reasons. One, you're not buying British goods, so they're going to take a business hit. And two, it encourages people to buy American-made goods, which means more jobs for colonists, which means more factories will open, more stores. It pushes industry within the colonies. It's so effective that business in all of Britain falls by 14%, and by 1766, the King and Parliament repeal the Stamp Act. Then in 1767, the King and Parliament again get together and they pass a new tax in the colonies called the Townshend Acts. And the Townshend Acts are taxes on commonly bought goods, glass, lead, paint, and tea. And the colonists protest and they yell, "No taxation without representation." And they smuggle, and they smuggle on their ships also. And the King and the Parliament repeal the Townshend Acts on everything except for tea. They leave one very small tax on tea. And the purpose is that people at this time bought tea many times a day. And the King wanted them to be reminded of who's in power. You're going to buy tea. Tea is delicious. And every time you buy tea, you're going to pay that tax, and you're going to remember that I'm the one in charge. Now, all throughout the 13 colonies, there's this anger, against the British. It was more in the north where they were better educated, but it was throughout. And these groups of men would pop up called the Sons of Liberty, right? England is the motherland. We're the Sons of Freedom. And they met in secret, and membership was secret. You can't ruin your reputation. We're still British. To basically just complain about the British. And the largest groups of Sons of Liberty were in Boston, Massachusetts, all the way north of New England, which makes sense. They're the best educated, therefore the most knowledgeable, and the most opinionated, the strongest opinions. So we'll get to the Sons of Liberty and their role as well. And that was awesome. Thanks, guys.
Created using Powtoon.